On this day in history, April 12, 1861, the American Civil War began. The war lasted 4 years and was a significant and tumultuous period in American history that had far-reaching consequences. It was ignited by a series of events that unfolded over a period of time, culminating in the bombardment of Fort Sumter near Charleston, South Carolina, which marked the official beginning of hostilities. The roots of the Civil War can be traced back to the deepening economic, social, and political differences between the southern and northern states in the mid-19th century. At the heart of these differences was the contentious issue of slavery. The southern states, which were predominantly agrarian and heavily dependent on slave labor, viewed slavery as a fundamental aspect of their way of life and fiercely defended it as a legitimate institution. The northern states, on the other hand, were increasingly industrialized and had begun to embrace abolitionist sentiments, advocating for the end of slavery. Tensions between the two regions had been simmering for decades, with numerous disputes arising over issues such as tariffs, states' rights, and the expansion of slavery into new territories. These differences came to a head in the 1860 presidential election, when Abraham Lincoln, a Republican who opposed the expansion of slavery, was elected as the 16th President of the United States. This outcome was seen as a threat to the southern states, who believed that their interests and way of life were under attack. In response to Lincoln's election, 7 southern states seceded from the Union and formed the Confederate States of America, a breakaway nation that sought to preserve slavery and protect the sovereignty of individual states. The newly formed Confederacy saw the federal government's attempts to regulate or abolish slavery as a direct challenge to their autonomy and launched efforts to defend their cause. On April 12, 1861, the first shots of the Civil War were fired when Confederate forces bombarded Fort Sumter, a federal fort located in Charleston Harbor. The fort was a symbol of federal authority, and its attack marked the beginning of open hostilities between the Union and the Confederacy. The bombardment of Fort Sumter was a turning point, as it led to President Lincoln's call for troops to suppress the rebellion and preserve the Union. The war that followed was brutal and costly, with casualties on both sides numbering in the hundreds of thousands. It saw major battles such as Bull Run, Antietam, Gettysburg, and the infamous Siege of Petersburg, and witnessed the rise of notable generals such as Robert E. Lee and Ulysses S. Grant. The war also brought about significant social and political changes, including the issuance of the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, which declared that all slaves in Confederate territory were to be set free. Finally, on April 9, 1865, General Lee surrendered to General Grant at Appomattox Courthouse, effectively ending the war. The Confederate States were gradually restored to the Union, but the impact of the war was profound and far-reaching. It resulted in the abolition of slavery in the United States and redefined the relationship between the federal government and the states. It also left scars that would take generations to heal and shape the nation's history for years to come.